Okay, call this regular council meeting to order for November the 14th. It's 3 p.m. and I would ask Councillor Harrison to please read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, as well as the Tusina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3 within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge that many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
All right, thank you. And I'd also like to acknowledge that November 12th to 18th is Métis Week. This week is to honor the Métis people and their rights and recognition towards being a distinct nation. And November 16th of this week is the day that Métis people across Canada actually celebrate the Right Honourable Louis Riel Day. So we will move on to 2.1, and are there any additions or deletions? No. Could I please have somebody adopt the agenda as presented?
I'll do that, Mayor Barkley.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maceras. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to 3.1, the regular council minutes for October 23rd. And when you're ready, please have somebody make a motion to adopt those minutes as presented. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you. I so move.
All right, thank you. Any questions, changes to anything? No? All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. And then 3.2, the organizational meeting for October the 23rd. Somebody please make a motion.
I'll move those minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Approval.
All in favor? Okay, carried. And then 3.3, the agenda and priorities meeting for November the 6th. Please have somebody make a motion to adopt those. Councillor Dunn.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, thank you. And all in favor? All right, carried. So we'll move into 4.1 and the CAO report.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Hello, Council. Just a few items to bring to your attention, Council. The last couple of weeks has been largely geared towards administrative tasks. More specifically to that performance reviews, that time of year again. Of course, budget preparation for the deliberations to occur next week, and just some one-off engagements. Council will see myself and legislative coordinator at some upcoming council committee meetings as we move into our orientations. So the orientation will be more related to council's more direct policies, bylaws, and then each manager will be responsible for the meet or the work plan associated with those committees. So we'll take this time just to have some engagement regarding council committee responsibilities and expectations. That's really it, Council, if you have any questions to this report.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? If not, I please ask for somebody to accept the CAO report as information. Councillor Wing.
Yes, excuse me, Mayor Barkley. I would move that Council approve the CAO report dated November 14th, 2023 as information.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move on to the Council Action Control 4.3. Councillor Hystad.
Your Worship, I do have a question. When I was reviewing the council control, I believe that there is a request for us to meet with AHS in there. And Your Worship, to Administration CAO Becker, the only reason why I bring this up, and I wanted to bring it up in the action control, is because I know a year ago, November 8th, 2022, we had a delegation from the Ladies Auxiliary come and do a presentation in regards to the door at the Innisfail Healthcare Center. And so I was wondering if that was an opportunity, is when we'll have that meeting with AHS. And so, and the reason why I'm bringing it forward is I would like to know where we're at with, through AHS, as to where we're going with the ambulance bay door. So that's what I want to bring forward through that control. I think it's appropriate to go through there rather than adding it on an agenda, as an agenda item, so.
Mayor Barkley, I could respond to Councillor Hysted's question, comments. So right now, in regards to this action item, so the idea is to get some questions associated with this action item. We thought it'd be a good start to move into the contractor of EMS. So the action item is geared on EMS services, and then move into HS representative as for the direction. I'm just wondering if the question to the door is more associated with a different component of AHS. Certainly, I think if he posed the question, because it does tie into EMS ambulance services, but likely you probably have to go to another part of AHS to get specific to the infrastructure requirement of that, of the hospital.
Yeah, and you may be correct there. I was just trying to streamline, you know, if they would have an answer for us from not only EMS, but AHS, and we know that there's significant changes going on within AHS, but my curiosity I knew it was, and I did some, you know, research on when this had happened, and I just thought I would agree with you that it would be probably another component of AHS, depending on who's leading that portion. But it's something that I think it's important for us as a council to have a heads up on, so.
With that, Council, I could easily pose the question to the different counterparts of AHS and the hospital to see if there's been any traction associated with that item.
Okay, thanks.
Well, and I just add too, we did meet with HS a few months ago now over the ambulance door, and it was quite clear it's not a priority at this time. And that was the answer we got at that time. And I know that the MLA was very adamant about getting a door, but hasn't had any traction as well. So they know we want the door, but it was not a priority on their list.
So, and I'm going to say, I don't recall that conversation with us at this table. It wasn't a priority. I understood it was on their radar and it would be looked at. But, you know, and I'm just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page here, so.
Yeah, no, I believe we reported back after we met with AHS at the hospital. CO Becker and I met with site manager Suzanne Telford and a couple of AHS representatives. It may have been when you were on a leave, I'm not sure, Councillor Hystad, but we did report back to council about the meeting.
Okay, I don't recall that, so.
You may have been on a leave of absence at the time.
No.
Well, you were away when you were campaigning.
No, when we were dealing with the door thing, there was a bit of a back and forth on it, but it was never settled. So I don't recall that being discussed here at this table. And that's just me being upfront with you guys. Like, I don't recall that. So if we can just look at those meeting minutes as when it was presented, I'd be good with that. So, thanks.
I can speak to other action items on the control here, Council. So there is some action associated with vehicle noise. Again, management is working on developing that report to council. Also, administration did reach out to broadband service provider, and we're expecting some follow-up there, but we might have to come back to council to have a little bit more your involvement there. But right now, we're expecting a follow-up conversation with the service provider. So just to let you know, there's been action, but not to the full degree that we're hoping for at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments about action control? If not, please have somebody make a motion that we accept this as information. Councillor Harrison.
I'd so move.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. And then we'll move into 4.2, the strategic plan midterm update.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Just an item to make is to formalize your midterm work that you conducted, council, regarding your strategic plan. A while ago, September, in fact, council administration came together to look at what has been accomplished over the last couple of years and what are the expectations moving forward in regard to your higher end strategy. So with that, this this report is really to confirm this is in fact your focus areas, and also to make it transparent to the public that this will be the focus area until further notice. So the 5 different areas of focus include ensuring housing diversity, meeting recreational needs, adding an economic development officer to the town staff, sustainable asset management, and growing the energy hub. So this is a good preliminary discussion of you, council, and setting your expectation as we move into the budget process into next week. So again, this is just to formalize the work that has been conducted, and we'll splash this out as accordingly based on your approval of this document.
All right, thank you. I'm curious, if you're probably aware, but there's a new application currently for the NRED grant, another NRED grant. If you're aware of it, I don't know if it fits in with anything, but
Definitely,
I
Mayor
just-
Barkley, we talked about that this morning during our budget
Yeah.
administrative conversations, how we can apply
Okay.
some of that funding towards the budget and
great,
council strat plan.
yeah. So do another application is like, because we have one in, right? Or we got one already and,
Yeah, it'll be a follow-up
Yeah.
application.
yeah,
yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, any questions about anything in here? Okay, please have someone make a motion that we approve the midterm priorities.
Mayor Barclay, I'd like to make that motion.
All right, thank you, Councillor Dunham. Any further questions, comments? No, all in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll move into 5.1, the committee terms of reference amendment with Director Vickers.
Do you want-
Okay.
Either one.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So this report is just to allow for the terms of reference adjustments for the Policing and Safe Community Committee, as well as the Community Economic Development Advisory Group, as directed at the October 23rd organizational meeting of council. So following a midterm review of boards and committees at the organizational meeting of council, changes were proposed to the terms of reference for the Policing and Safe Community Committee and the Community Economic Development Advisory Group through the following 2 resolutions. So the first one is that council approves drafting an amendment to bylaw 1673-2021, the Innisfil Community Economic Development Advisory Group terms of reference, allowing for 3 members of council to sit on the advisory group. And the second one was that council approves drafting an amendment to bylaw 1628-2019, establishing the Policing and Safe Community Committee to reflect that voting members shall be residents of the town or own, operate, or be employed by a business organization located in the town. So the 2 new draft bylaws attached to this report contain updates to reflect the requests of the council in the resolutions and allow for the repeal of the previous terms of reference bylaws. So we would be looking for all 3 readings for each one of the bylaws in those motions.
Okay, thank you. And we don't need a motion to repeal the old, because we're just making change.
Correct,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. All right, so I please ask somebody to give, do the motion for the first reading, please. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I would move that council give first reading to bylaw 1716-2023, the Policing and Safe Community Committee bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? No, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And could I please have someone give second reading? Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I move that council approves giving second reading to bylaw 1716-2023, the Policing and Safety Community Committee bylaw.
All right, thank you. Questions? All in favor? Okay, carried, and have someone please move to third reading?
I'll move that we proceed to 3rd reading.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. All in favor? And then I'll have somebody please make third and final reading. Councillor Maceros?
I'll move that council makes third and final reading to bylaw 1716-2023, the Policing and Safe Community bylaw.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. And we'll move on to the second motion. Please have somebody give first reading for that. Councillor Dunham, sorry. Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I move that council approves giving first reading to bylaw 1717-2023 Economic Development Advisory Group bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, carried. And second reading, please. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. The council approved second reading to bylaw 171723 Community Economic Development Advisory Group.
Okay, thank you. Questions? All in favor? Okay, and then please someone that make a motion that we move to third reading.
Mayor Barkley, I would move that council proceed to third reading for bylaw 1717-2023.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? And then a motion for third and final reading, please, for this bylaw. Councillor Bates.
I'll move that we give third reading to bylaw 1717-2023 Community Economic Development Advisory Group bylaw.
Okay, great, thank you. Final questions, discussion? No? All in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move into 5.2, the Council Remuneration Review Committee recommendations.
Yes,
with
thank you,
Director
Mayor
Vickers.
Okay, so this is to provide the Council Remuneration Review Committee's recommendation to Council for consideration. So the 2023 committee consisted of 5 members of the public. They were Barb Dixon, Arno Glover, Bill Hoppins, Ron King, and Ted Parks. The committee met on 2 different occasions, September 19th and October 17th, to arrive at their recommendation. So the Council Remuneration Committee compensation philosophy was to consider the following factors: past recommendations and key data within existing policy, avoidance of any commentary on perceived councillors' efficiency or productivity, previous pay awards, last increased in 2017 with no award made in 2019, comparative studies with 18 other municipalities, external factors such as past and current rates of inflation and the National Price Index, or CPI, the town's current financial management, debt burden, and reserves, and as well as consideration of local market conditions, economic indicators, and community sentiment perceptions. The recommendations of the committee are included in the draft policy as follows. So to increase the monthly honorarium to include the 2 agenda and priorities meetings. For the mayor, that would move up to $3,200, and for a councillor, would go to $1,650. Introduce a flat rate of $35 per hour for per diems. Clarify the specific council activities that fall under the monthly honorarium or per diem categories, and any COLA increases applied to council remuneration shall not be higher than increases given to town employees. The rationale of the recommendation was to not increase the rates at this time, but to streamline the policy and rates to be in line with the activities listed in either under honorarium or per diem. The committee is also recommending that council discuss applying COLA to these new rates at budget time to achieve an increase to their remuneration. So in the policy, the activities that have been included under the monthly base honorarium are these. So in the past, it included the 2 regular council meetings. Now it will include the 2 agenda and priority meetings, and just clearly identify the following that are also included in the monthly honorarium. So public hearings that are part of regular council meetings, the annual organizational meetings, preparation time for meetings, meetings or correspondings with members of the public, meetings with administrative staff, public or special events where attendance is not in official capacity. Travel time to any council activities would be covered under the base honorarium, duties of Commissioner of Oaths, as well as staff functions. So that would all be included in that base honorarium. In the per diems, so they are recommending it to move to a $35 per hour rather than a half day or a full day. And it would include the following. So boards and committee meetings, meetings of authorities, boards, commissions, committees that the member or alternate has been appointed to that do not remunerate, special council meetings, budget deliberations, public hearings scheduled outside of a regular council meetings, meetings with community partners, intergovernmental partners, and other stakeholders, conferences and conventions, so attendance shall be capped at 8 hours per day for attendance at events such as the Alberta Municipalities and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities conventions, education sessions, seminars and workshops, and official orientation and training, as well as public or special events where only the attendance is in the official capacity of mayor or deputy mayor to bring greetings on behalf of the town. So would you like to continue to go through the rest of the policy as well? So council members must submit their per diem request on the prescribed form to the mayor for approval. So travel expenses. When travel is required for an official council-appointed function such as a board or committee, regional body training, conference, or convention, members of council will be reimbursed for expenses as shown on submitted receipts. So that could be gas, parking, things like that. Eligible travel expenses include lodging, parking, meals, telephone, or internet charges incurred for town business, ground transportation, and commercial airlines. Expenses for alcohol will not be reimbursed by the town. The daily meal allowances where no receipt is provided are paid at the rate listed in the employee travel and subsistence policy. Members of council are encouraged to utilize a town of Innisfil vehicle or carpool whenever possible while traveling on town business. If a member of council does use a personal vehicle, they will be reimbursed at the current rate per kilometer as determined by the Canada Revenue Agency. Council benefits did not change, so members of council are eligible to participate in the following benefits, with the premiums being paid for the town of Innisfil. So extended health care, dental care, and the Healthy Initiative. And then go on to a review of council remuneration and benefits. So that goes on to say that council shall appoint an ad hoc committee consisting solely of public members to review council remuneration and benefits every 2 years in the year of a general election as well as midterm. And the terms of reference is attached as Schedule A. And that council may receive an annual cost of living. And then again, any COLA increase applied to council remuneration shall not be higher than increases given to those of town employees. So I'll take any questions or comments.
All right, thanks. So maybe what we'll do is we will have somebody make the motion, and then we will open it up for discussion. So could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move that council approves policy 2023-007, councillor remuneration policy.
Okay, and then we'll open it up for discussion. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Vickers, I just have a couple of questions for clarification, or one question primarily. Oh, two, actually, sorry. Travel time to council activities is included in the per diem or the base honorarium, and I understand that. But what about travel time for conferences that require significant travel time? Like if you spend a day traveling and then traveling to and a day traveling back, is that covered or is that included under the base honorarium?
So under this policy, it would be included in the base honorarium and would not be something to be charged.
Okay. And then my second question is, I'm wondering about whether we should be including the $2,000 a year for professional development under the council benefits.
That would be a good suggestion, yes.
Okay.
Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, I would agree with the professional development for the $2,000 that Councillor Wing was bringing up. And so I'm kind of curious as to the 18 communities that were looked at, that we are looked at as comparators. You know, looking at this, you know, I see it's a bit of a bump up. I'm curious as to where we sit. I know previously, years ago, we were always down below, you know, on the median point. Innisfil has, and I know that we've always strived to, you know, it looks good that we're, you know, under the radar for those, you know, those benefits and salaries itself, but want to know where we're at, because, and I think it's really important for us to have an idea of where we fit within the province.
Yeah.
Communities our size, and yeah.
Absolutely. So we didn't necessarily just look at the rates and see where we fell. What we did is we looked very in-depth into the duties of each of those municipalities and to see how we compared, to see if we were comparable enough with those rates. So we may be a little bit different than some of our surrounding municipalities, but we did look directly at the duties that we wanted to include in those two amounts. But we are very comparable into Central Alberta.
So the duties, like you looked at each community, like similar size as to, and what we were doing on a day-to-day basis?
Well, we looked at all the things that would have been included in their honorariums and their per diems versus what we were doing to ours. So that's kind of how we compared.
Okay. You know, my only comment, I think Councillor Wing, you know, I'm not going to put any words in Councillor Wing's mouth, but I think that the travel time You know, depending on if you're FCM or any of those larger, functions, that does, I guess the base salary, there is a bit of a bump up there for that. But, when you're, for example, FCM, you could spend 2 days of travel. And that's, to me, that's time and energy. And, whoever's going to be sitting here in 2 years' time, the big thing for me is making sure that we're not only accommodating individuals that may be taking on these roles, but also making sure that it's fair across the board. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Vickers. Just a couple of questions and a comment. The purpose of putting the regular council meetings in the agenda and priorities meetings together was for streamlining?
Correct, yes.
Okay, all right. And I don't know if it's part of this or it should be part of this. The idea of what to do when a counselor takes a vacation or is gone for 2 weeks. I'm not quite sure if that should maybe be addressed in here, or is it going to be addressed somewhere else?
So it has not been addressed yet, so that is something that likely we can talk about and add if council is comfortable, for sure, to talk about like a vacation type of allowance, that there are so many days that a council member is allowed to miss in a year, versus then going into a reduction of that honorarium potentially.
Okay, and then just to follow up on Councillor Hystad and Councillor Wing, and that's the other thing that kind of stuck out to me when I was going through this is thinking about the long travel to FCM and, 2 full days of travel, and if that maybe could be given some reconsideration.
Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And first, I see a committee member or a review committee member sitting in the gallery, and I'd like to thank the committee for the work that they've done. This is a tough discussion, probably a tough discussion at your table when you were going through it. I've sat on that committee prior to council here, so that's my first comment. I agree with these rates. I think they're more than fair. Travel time, it's to me, it's a bit of it is an honor to sit on council. We're not CEOs of the Bank of Montreal or anything like that. We're doing it for a reason, particularly in my case, to give back to the community. So I see the rates, there is a bump up. The first bump, I believe, in two years. 6 years. So I think, I think it's more than fair. So I would agree with these rates. Travel time, I look at FCM and, it's probably 8 hours in an airplane in an airport. And, just the honor of being able to represent our community at these events, probably in my case or in my view, the daily rate, the 8 hours, would be more than sufficient. So those are more comments. So I'll certainly be supporting the recommendations that come forth from the committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Dunham, and then Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Director Vickers and the committee. I'll mirror what Councillor Harrison said, and thank you very much for putting this together. I like most of what I see. I think the per diems and going that way forward, I think, is much more equitable, because I know for a fact that a lot of the meetings do not run for the time allotted. So I think this will be much more equitable, and for the community as well, because they know that we are just getting paid for the time that we are attending. I also have some concerns about the travel time. I mean, it's wonderful if you're retired or if you're on a salary, but for those in the future who may own small businesses and actually have to have time covered at their businesses by somebody else, to me, I have a little bit of an issue with that. So, and yes, it is very much an honor to be here and to be able to be a part of any of the professional development that we can be a part of. But I think that that would be a sticking point for some people and be very difficult for a few people to take if they have to take 2 days and pay somebody else to be there. It's one thing to not make money, but to have to pay for someone. Other than that, local travel time for that, absolutely okay with that. All the different other pieces of the streamlining, I think are really, really good. And, you know, I would be open to some more discussion around those couple points.
Okay, and Councillor Bates?
Okay, so I'm not sure if I'm remembering properly, but I do believe we had an increase in 2021. It doesn't say that we didn't, but I'm 100% sure we did, because I know we made the papers. But I'd just like to point that out. I can think of one small travel that might be a bit awkward for somebody, and that's, I'm not on it now, I guess I am as a backup, but the RDR mug, if you're not on the executive, you would be driving 3 hours round trip to Drumheller for an hour-and-a-half meeting, and that seems a little bit stretchy. I do believe that we should make some consideration, and maybe it's not 100%, but we should make some consideration for those big travel events. And as I look at the other alterations, I, for one, would be more than willing to trade. If I miss one of the 4 meetings, I'd give a deduct. And I'm sure at the end of the day, it'll all kind of shake out for the entire council. But you know, we talk about all the things we do and all that, but if you're not here, you're not contributing. And so I'd be willing to take that deduct. Those are my points.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Maceras?
Yeah, one more thing. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I just wanted to clarify that that's what I meant too, when I was asking about some guidance around vacation, being away. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so lots of thoughts around this. One, of course, was including the AMPs, and then when people are absent, so that prorating, because, you know, at times, I guess the person who signs the timesheets, I guess I see more than anybody else, and you know, there might be times when somebody's here part of the month and are getting paid the same as somebody's here the whole time and doing a lot of things. So I think that needs to be addressed. I would like to see some kind of a vacation policy. I mean, people need to be entitled to a vacation with pay, and what is that? I don't know. But meal allowances, I say no reimbursement unless you have receipts. I don't know of many organizations today that would allow you to get reimbursed for anything unless you have a receipt. So I think that's all part of being responsible. I'm wondering, the $35 per hour, is that a minimum? So you go someplace and you give a welcome remark for 5 minutes, and, you know, is that $35 or is that $4? So that's, I'm curious about that, because this may impact me as much as anybody. So I will tell you what I did. I went through my October time, and I've always done a spreadsheet with my mayoral activities on it that I've included in the base salary. So changing the policy to where we could be going would have added over $1,000 to my pay. I put in about 55 hours last month of activities, whether like the March Against Domestic Violence. You know, I'm wondering about things like the Red Deer Recovery Summit. I was invited to go to that. That's an 8-hour day. I put that into my base salary. I didn't charge extra for it, but with this new policy, is that now $280 for the day instead of being included? So, you know, there's a lot of things that I look at that you know, we went to St. Marguerite's for Thanksgiving lunch to cook. I had a meeting with Mayor Wood at Red Deer County. What else? Little free library openings. We were invited to Innisfail and Welcoming Inclusive Community. So I was invited to give opening remarks, but I happened to stay for the day. And people comment, oh, it's so nice to have a mayor that actually stays and doesn't just come and give the remarks and leaves. But, you know, that was 5 hours that day. So are you getting paid for that, or are you? So I don't know. It's Director Vickers. It's, like I said, it probably impacts me more than others potentially. So I just want to make sure that it's fair for our taxpayers and fair for us as well. I think training, and I had the training education budget down. I'm not sure if that should stay where it is or be increased somewhat. Again, you know, there's lots of opportunities to go to things that you don't because there's no budget for it. And, you know, I know every mayor in Central Alberta went to RMA, for as an example, you know, and we don't, and I don't know that we ever have, maybe before, but, so those are just some of my thoughts, and I'm not sure where it all lands, but, you know, like the holiday train, that is something that you get invited to. You know, is that something that is now going to be chargeable? And so,
I know, so my thought, Mayor Barkley, is if you're not acting in an official capacity, just because you get invited,
well,
unless you're acting in an official capacity, likely that should probably be part of it.
but I think you are acting in an official capacity if you are being invited to something, right? Like if you're on the holiday train and you're coming and you're giving remarks on behalf of the town.
Yep.
Is that official
would be you,
capacity?
yeah, for sure.
So, anyway, and not every month is like October was. It was
Right.
very busy, but I just wanted to point that out, that, you know, it can be a difference. I also see with the committees a big change, I think very positive change, because at times I think of Municipal Planning Commission, right? Like how often do those meetings go for like an hour? Not very often. So, you know, instead of somebody getting 110, now maybe going to get 35. I see, but the flip side of that, of course, is Alberta Municipalities Convention, where we're now getting the per diem of 220. That's now going to change to 280. So, you know, which is fine. I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm just saying point things out, because I don't want people to think, oh, gee, council's getting this big raise. Well, are we? Like the prep time that goes into meetings, it's not just showing up at the meeting today. There's a lot of prep time that goes into it, and there's prep time that goes into all the committees, or should. So,
That's why I thought if we identified everything
Yeah.
that was included in that base honorarium, everyone would understand that there is a lot more work that our council does that is not front-facing in the community, right? So,
yeah, so it's difficult to find where that fair point, fairness is for everybody, but I think I'd be more satisfied if we're going to prorate the base.
based on how many meetings, like out of the four
Yeah,
main meetings in a
and
month.
also have a holiday policy, so people that they are entitled to vacation with pay. I mean,
Would you like to go through and make changes now, or do you want us to come back?
I don't know,
or-
do you take it back to the committee again, or do we do that, or?
It's really up to council, Mayor Barkley, if, you know, the committee is put in place to analyze, take your initial directive of where you want to go, you want to start listing out your activities. I think the committee has met your targets that you communicated, so you can put it back to the committee, or you thank the committee and make those adjustments based on your discussion that you're having today.
You know, and we talk about the travel, like that, should that be at a different rate? If you're sitting on an airplane, is that a different rate than being at an actual meeting for the day? Maybe yes, maybe no, I don't know. So we can either talk about this today and get it all worked out, or send it back to the committee, which doesn't seem to necessarily be an option. I think it sounds like either we work it out or Director Vickers takes it away and kind of makes adjustments. So Councillor Heisted, you've got your
Yeah.
hand up on.
How I saw it was we give our suggestions, go back to Director Vickers, and then bring it back to us. That's how I was seeing the process. And so that's how I was looking at. As to my comments on people being sick or away and that, or, you know, Mayor Barkley being paid $4 an hour, which is insanity in my mind. But it's about being treated fairly. And actually, I think that, you know, and I think Councillor Dunham had said it too, you know, it depends on who's owns a business or may have to take a day or two. We want to make sure that we're being realistic and just being honest here, which has been a really good discussion. I'm good. I think that the base rate where we're heading is fair. I do believe though, if you're sick or you need a holiday, let's be the best employer that we can be, not only for our town staff, but for us as leaders within this community. That's how I look at it. And I'm not here to get rich off town council. And I think that's where Don was going too, you know, is we do this for the right reasons. And so that's how I'm seeing this process, is it going back to Director Vickers and coming back to us and not shortchanging ourselves too. I'll be upfront with here. There's a lot of time and effort. I see the mayor, I see our councillors being at so many different events that, you know, comments have been made to not only me, but our team is we've done more than some other groups, you know, councils that have led beforehand. And that's, you know what, don't shortchange ourselves as this, you know, as this group, and don't shortchange the people that are going to come in here in 2 years' time as well. That's how I'm seeing it. Thank you.
Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I think in the past, as I've watched some of the deliberations, certain individuals have led a discussion which we ended up shortchanging ourselves a little bit. And so, yeah, that's a good point. And to be so noble to say, I'm here to do my time and, you know, for nothing. And I did want to clarify one, when I made the point that we could consider a deduction if a meeting was missed. I wouldn't look at it as, when I hear prorate, I think, you know, that's a big chunk. It could be in the order of magnitude of what it was when you used to get paid for it. Like, if you were getting $110 to do an AMP, I wouldn't chop the thing by a quarter if you missed one. Because you're doing all that other stuff. You're going to all those other things that there's a big list here of the things you're expected to do. Mm-hmm. So it would be somebody picking an appropriate number that you might deduct if you missed a meeting. I just wanted to clarify that. And I do believe perhaps getting Director Vickers to digest some of this and come back is the process.
Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I think one of the reasons that we asked for this to be looked at is just because of lack of clarity when we're writing our own timesheets, and lack of clarity in terms of, well, I guess just all over lack of clarity. And I'm wondering if, does this answer our questions? And I don't know if it 100% does, and I think you brought up a bunch of kind of details that it might not answer. And it makes me think about when the discussion that was had before we went to the legislature a couple of weeks ago, where there was a decision made before we went that it would be an unpaid trip. And I think maybe there needs to be some room in a policy where we're able to make decisions like that don't kind of maybe necessarily always fall into a policy like this. And then to make a decision like that prior to going, then that helps us as council members decide whether that's something that we're able to do or not.
Well, and I think too, Councillor Maceros, with this new policy, people would get paid an hour because the meeting in Edmonton was an hour, right? So that's what we would get paid for, going to Edmonton. Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm just thinking, what I'm trying to say is that I liked the notion of having made a decision prior to going. Yeah.
Councillor Wing?
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. I'd just like to just go back for one more question regarding the $2,000 a year in professional development, because we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago when we went to the climate summit. Is that $2,000, have we defined that anywhere? So as a counselor, can I use that money then to pay my registration as well as pay my per diem for my time, given that it is over and above? Or is it just purely for registration? And if I agree with the group that it would be nice to maybe just send this back to Director Vickers and get some more work on this, but the clarity around what that actual PD fund is to be used for and how we access it would be really helpful.
Yeah, so there is no policy behind that $2,000 and what that can be spent on right now, so.
CEO Becker?
So, council, so what I'm hearing is more work administratively in regards to travel, professional development, vacation or absenteeism. Those are the three main focus areas. And what I suggest to you is, in respect to the committee, if it's, once administration does some research and applies your questions, if you're gonna do a kind of 180 on the policy, I'd say put it back to the committee. The committee is well respected and really did a lot of hard work associated with the policy. So if it's just administrative touches on it, I'd say keep it with administration. But if you want a rework of the policy, I'd say put it back to the committee in respect, not in any spite of, no, you didn't hit the target, is we'd like to do something different and here's the area we'd like to go. So I think that's what I suggest to you.
Yeah, and maybe having a committee member here today, you know, has heard the discussion, and maybe that kind of helps frame further work as opposed to putting it all on Director Vickers. But, you know, to me, the big one is if it's going to be a base, fine, but we need to be able to account for absences. That needs to be addressed. So if somebody's away for a month or half a month, then you can't get fully paid, because that's, and then, you know, I think the travel thing is another thing to consider. If you're going long ways away, whether that, whatever rate that's at, I don't know, but, and no receipt, no reimbursement.
Yeah, that would be an easy one to just.
Yeah, that's
fix.
easy.
I think we actually did discuss it at the
Okay.
meeting, whether or not receipts, when we opted to kind of follow what we do for the staff,
Yeah.
which is kind of why that stayed that way, because that is in the staff travel policy.
Well, I don't think it should be there either, in my opinion, but
It's,
that's up to you guys.
To the question, comment, Member Barclay, it's a catch. It's so, if you lose your receipt eating at Burger King or whatever, sorry, last year, so then we apply that policy. And that's the only time we do. It's probably 95% is per receipt.
I don't even know if anyone's ever submitted a
Yeah,
non-receipt.
well, I can tell you what would happen if my former employer, if there was no receipt. Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, I'm just curious, are we going back to Director Vickers? Are we gonna bring it back to the committee? Just curious on process. And my comment on us absenteeism and stuff, I've never seen that. There's never been an issue with our group. So as to what has been done in other councils or other other jurisdictions, I'm curious as to how they handle it. But and I'm going to just be honest, like, you know, sometimes you have individuals that have medical issues that we need to make sure that we're as good as, you know, as an employer, or better than, you know, as we want to have that standard, the standard of town of Innisfail. We want to be like one of the best employers out there. So we're looking after people. But I'm curious as to what other councils are doing. And that's what you know, that would be my ask of absenteeism and stuff like that, because I don't see that as an issue around this table. So I think it's a bit of a theme, and I get concerned when we're making up a theme that isn't an issue. We've got really good counselors that, you know, have been away and have done meetings at 2 a.m. overseas. And I commend all of you guys that the time and efforts you put in. So that's my question, is how are we going to handle this?
Member Barclay, to the question, Councillor Hystad, is I'd suggest to you, put it back to administration, to the director, to answer those three questions of travel, PD, vacation, absenteeism. And again, with that information shared by administration, if you see it's a rework, I'd say put it back to the committee. And basically, like, a policy is a policy where there's often is accompanied with procedure. Sometimes it is a conversation. How do we apply this situation associated with this policy framework? Sometimes decisions are made with the reference of the policy, and sometimes the policy doesn't reference it specifically because you guys are touching so many different areas. You can't capture everything you want to do within that policy framework. It is an application of expectation and the guidance, but it does require conversation.
I also point out too that, that the council benefits that we get, I know not other councils necessarily have benefits in their communities, and WCB on top of that as well. So pretty fortunate there, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration. So maybe we'll have the motion amended to that we send this back to administration for further.
It's
Further
just, Mayor
review.
Barkley, as per the motion, you may want to vote on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
yeah.
might be approved and maybe not, based on the policy, and then defeated, then give direction
Okay,
from there.
all right, so we have a motion that, to accept this policy. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, then we'll have a motion to send this back to administration for review.
Mayor Barkley, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. All right. And we will move into 6.1, correspondence and information. I'll just have somebody make a motion that we accept the correspondence as information, please. Councillor Hystad?
I'll make the motion to accept the correspondence as information.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then we'll start with round table, and we'll start with Councillor Maceras today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. It was a quiet week for me last week, and the highlight was the Remembrance Day ceremonies. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. It was a quiet week for me as well, and for me as well, Remembrance Day service was wonderful. It was nice to see the weather accommodated us once again. We're very lucky to have had such a lovely day, and it was a great turnout and nice to see so many people there again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Also a quiet week. I did not attend the ceremonies here in Innisfail. I did, on behalf of my family, attended ceremonies in Calgary. It was a family event that was put together by my grandfather's, I guess, grandchildren, and we went to Calgary. So, but picking up on the events that here happened in Innisfail was very good. Weather cooperated. And the flyby was done at 1,000 feet, which complied with Transport Canada's regulations. It wasn't a treetop level. Just a comment. So, I think everybody that attended, it was well turned out. This upcoming week, it's going to be busy. There's lots of things on the go. There's RD Mug. There's the tree lighting ceremony. So, looking forward to getting out, and I hope the weather holds the rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hystad.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just the Remembrance Day, I thought the poppies, the artwork that was done on the cenotaph with the poppies was great this year. The Legion looked wonderful. I want to thank the Legion leadership and everybody that was there. And this week I'll be going into surgery on Thursday, so I'll probably be, I think I'll be off for sure a week or maybe 2 weeks, depending on how I recover. And hopefully this is the last time I have infection in my guts. So thanks. Yeah. You guys will miss me.
We wish you the best for sure. And Councillor Bates.
I got a short table this week. Remembrance Day, which everybody's commented on, and I think it was covered very well in the press with all of the new and nice things that happened. This week, not so much. I have a potential U of C alumni event on Thursday, and, which I do intend to go to, and the Countdown to Christmas on Friday.
Okay, and Counselor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So I can catch Councillor Bates up this week as he did for me. You forgot that you attended the lunch and the tour of the Red Deer Recovery Community that was last week, wasn't it? Yeah, last week. Anyways,
Yeah, except we attended it before the
we
meeting.
haven't talked about it.
Yes, we did, and it's covered in the minutes.
Well, I haven't. I'll get you the next time. Anyways, I did want to say, as I've reflected on that event, it's an interesting model. It's very, very well funded by the provincial government, unlike the other agencies that are dealing on the front line in Red Deer with people dealing with homelessness and addiction. So I was pleased that they are coming to the table to work with all those other organizations. They have a beautiful facility and they have very difficult work to be done. So I enjoyed that day. Last Thursday, I was invited to attend the Red Deer Polytechnic Draft Strategic Drivers external engagement. It was led by President Cullum and Vice President of Development and Partnerships, Patrick Machasek, he's both of them formerly of Olds College. The event was interesting, focusing on the strategic future for that institution. It's a very aggressive plan. It will transform the institution and the community it serves as it plans on growing significantly over the coming years. We also attended the Remembrance Day service at the Innisfil Legion last Saturday, a very moving and beautiful event. Thanks as well to the Legion for their leadership and focus on building community and ensuring the contributions of all veterans and their families are not forgotten. Those banners, I think, are just one signal to us as to how deeply invested this community really was in both World War I and World War II, so very proud to be a part of that. This week sees the quarterly meeting of the Parkland Regional Library System Board, countdown to Christmas, and this Saturday, the Welcome Inclusive Communities and Pride are collaborating on a speaker series that will focus on microaggressions and Indigenous learning. So this is a first collaboration between those two organizations, and I'm looking forward to many more in the future. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So Tuesday morning, I was at RDP at their strat planning session. Went to 3 Remembrance Day ceremonies this past week, one at Innisfil High School, Penhold, and then the one at the Legion. Between the two schools, there was probably 1,200 kids at each school, so it was great to see. Penhold typically doesn't do a Remembrance Day like that, so it was the first time for them, and it came off really well. And busy week ahead, looking forward to that. But we'll now move into open mic session. Mr. Hoppins, would you like to say anything, or? Okay, come on up.
Turn that on, all right. Well, first, congratulations on getting half done. And it's more than half baked, that's for sure. I want to commend the council for your teamwork with administration. There's a really good vibe coming out of your work, and you need to hear it. That's not without its bumps, you know, somebody's always mad at you, I know that. But overall, there's a synergy you've created, so well done. The remuneration thing, I won't comment on the individual things other than when you look at 18 districts and see all the different mindsets, to answer your question, Innisfil is average and a little bit below when you consider the whole thing. You're not into rock star status in the way you're treating yourselves. And I would encourage you to do that because it sets the stage for those that follow. And sometimes you'll take a little flack for it, but you set others up. I have a comment on your strategic plan. That was the other reason that I came, and I'd like to commend the council for doing things properly. You set by priorities before you budget, and for many, many years, council would budget, and then they'd have a retreat to set their strategic plan. And I always thought, how can you know you already spent your money, and there's priorities in there, you just haven't talked about them. So I would like to commend you on getting things right, but a word about priorities. The longer the priority list, the less important each one is. So when I was interviewed for the position of superintendent of Great East St. Albert, you know, at the end of interviews, they say, what would you like to say? I said, be very careful if you hire me, very careful. I am so good, I can do 3 things at once. And if you are brave enough to give me 4 priorities, this one's coming off. Because I don't do 4, I do 3. Your job is to do the hard work and decide what the 3 are. And if you can't do that, no worries, I can. And it'll be me, but I'm the hired help. Todd's the hired help. So don't give him 9 things to do. Give him 3 things, or maybe 4. He's way better than me. So that begs the question, what makes a priority a priority? Well, 4 things. Mission critical. If you don't do it, you die. That's how the medical people work. That's what's a priority. They triage every day. And the basis is, who's going to die if we don't do something? So when you set priorities, keep that first and foremost. So once you get that list, what's your ability to perform it? Doesn't move it off the list because it's critical. Can you do it or not do it? And then that might shape it a bit. And then what will have impact? What's the biggest splash? When you have big rocks, which rock do you throw in makes the biggest difference to this community? So that's the other thing. And then now we're at budget. What can we resource? So I would encourage you, and I'm so bold and brash that I will give some handout to your CEO, because there's an exercise in there where you can take those things and filter them twice. It's very hard work, but I would encourage you because it kind of happens intuitively in budget situations, so I would encourage you to do that. So thank you for listening to my remarks.
And thank you very much, and thanks for the work on the Remuneration Committee. And as much as we'd like to make ourselves rock stars, we also have an organization here that's kind of 50th percentile, so we don't want to...
You're worth it. I know sometimes you think, oh, well, we shouldn't. It's like, if you're going to spend days away from home and stuff, you can't do it for $35 an hour. You really can't. But those are hard questions. It's easy for me to sit here, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and now we'll have a motion to go in camera, please. Councillor Maceros?
I move that we go in camera.
Thank you. All in favor?